Hey friends, it's Kevin. Welcome to the Kevin Dairaghi Show. You guys are going to love this guy. It's Dan Gordan, Coach Dan Gordan. I've known him for years, right? But finally, we're able to connect on something like this. And just, it's like I've known him and talked with him over the years. So much of our stuff is very, very similar. And it's just really kind of awesome to connect the dots. We'll get into his chat here very, very shortly. But guys, none of this could be possible without our vendors. So like Jason Hudson with Red Maples does our rehabs. He's fantastic. Adam Droege with Complete Property Services, CRS. So, guys, they're property managers. They buy houses. They're investors. Like, they just make sense to help you buy properties, right? So we have Greg Vance. He does all my exteriors, roofs, gutters, soffits, gutters, all that stuff, siding. Just a good guy. Shows up, gets it done. And then also Lois Mans with Farmers Insurance. She's literally been covering my assets for many years, watched her grow. She is now like in the top, 1% of farmers agents worldwide. Like, it's awesome how great she's doing. And it's because she's just giving you exceptional coverage, exceptional service. So, guys, customer service is real and it is needed. And these are the guys that help me so much, and they're also helping you. So, if you're doing this stuff, you guys really need to be jumping in and using them. Hey, so Dan Gordan is great. So he's going to talk about stories where he starts literally in a pool of his own, like tears and snot. And then now he's like an executive coach and speaker and motivational just person, author. He's written a couple books. He's got a podcast. Dude is great. You're going to love this talk. Can't wait to see you on the other side. All right. Hey, friends, it's Kevin Dairaghi. Welcome to the Kevin Dairaghi Show. If you didn't notice, I'm live from the GUR office. So this is a place that I started years back, GUR office, so garage office. I have a little studio that I normally film from, but today is actually a fantastic day here in St. Louis, Missouri. We have Dan Gordan all the way from LA jumping on, and every day is gorgeous there. Dan, great to have you. Welcome.
Kevin, it is a delight being here. I am so ready to get into it.
So you come from, I have known of you without exaggeration, probably 4, 5, 6 years, ever since I've known Mary F. and Kane, the name Dan Gordan, Coach Dan, where I would talk about something. She's like, well, let me go ask Dan. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Who is this guy?
Jump in on this pedestal. So it's awesome to finally be able to have a conversation with you. And thank you, Mary, for obviously making the introduction. She is a fantastic connector on so many things. So obviously, if you've been speaking into her life, and she's obviously learned and grown and has done some pretty crazy stuff herself. So, and if you're one of the coaches whispering into her ear, giving her direction, this should be fun. So hi.
Hey,
all that. Yeah, all that set up. So Dan, like, I looked at what you do, right? You do a lot of podcasts, you do executive coaching, you do speaking, you do motivational this or this, and you've helped many, many, many people, right? So that is Dan of today. What was Dan of yesteryear before he was this titan in the world? How'd you get started in all this?
Okay, I will definitely tell you that. Before I do that, though, I like to jump in and start giving value right away. Right. You know, like I've been a lot of podcasts. I've had a lot of podcasts. I've done a lot of podcasts, and people tend to like really talk about themselves and their past and stuff. But I want to get right into some value. Then we'll talk about me. Okay. Value. Number one. I become an expert in sales, and I never meant to be. I'm the world's most reluctant sales trainer. Pardon me. I got into sales the way that a lot of founders get into sales, reluctantly, because I found myself in the sales role that I never wanted to be in, right? I'm not a sales guy. I'm a creative, right? I started as a graphic designer. And what I found in sales was that I had to do it in order to survive. But I didn't want to do it the way that I had seen sales done. And I talked to a lot of founders, and that's what they say. I don't want to be one of those salespeople. And so, having taught personal development courses for over a decade, let me give you who are listening, let me give you some advice around selling. Selling is not about closing deals. Selling is about managing your disappointment. Let's say that again. Selling is not about closing deals. It is about managing your disappointment. Selling, by its nature, leads you to disappointment. Right? You're passionate about what you do. You love what you do. You're great at what you do. When you start talking to people about paying you for what you do and they go, nah, it's disappointing because it's something that's personal to you. And the reason that a lot of people hate selling is because they don't understand it's really just about managing your disappointment. I'm disappointed all the time. I just got back from this great trip to Budapest with my love, Rosalind. Right before I left, I was talking to this guy about being his sales trainer for his company. We had a 2-hour conversation. He was so dialed in, so locked in. I sent him a couple of my books. This was a done deal. I get back from my vacation. He cancels the meeting. Right? I reach out to him. Hey, man, what's going on? Like, do you need to reschedule? No, I've decided to go with someone else. Ugh. It was so disappointing. And not just the money, but it was just right down Main Street. He was a perfect client. I knew I could help him. It was so disappointing. I'm still disappointed. And what I reminded myself is what I remind myself all the time. This is part and parcel to doing what you love. Being disappointed is a part of doing what you love. Right? If you're just doing a job just to make money, you don't have to worry about being disappointed, right? Because your heart's not in it. And if that's what you want to do, great. But if you're a founder, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're somebody who is mission driven, then most of the time in your business, you'll be disappointed. The thing I get to do that I love doing, I do about 10% of the time. 90% of the time is promotion, sales, getting out there in the world. I do speaking like you talked about. Most of the time in terms of speaking is just getting speaking gigs and getting turned down for speaking gigs that I really want. It's just the way that it works. Right. So I want to shift your thinking. You who are listening, I want to shift your thinking from I got to close that deal to I'm managing disappointment.
I think that's a big deal because what is it? Some of the metrics you need, 100 calls to have 50 people pick up, to have 10 appointments, to have 5 offers, to have 1, except like that's
right.
The whole funnel of disappointment.
It is. It's a lot of disappointment. And let me speak on that because a lot of people say selling is a numbers game. And it is and it isn't. And let me explain it this way. Let's say that you want to play baseball, right? And you say, instead of a bat, I'm going to bring up a feather and I'm going to hit all the balls with a feather. And it's just a numbers game, right? Like enough time at bats swinging with the feather, eventually I'm going to get a home run. No, you won't, right? Because you're not playing the game correctly. Now, if you're playing sales correctly, you can look at it as a numbers game. But if you're not doing sales correctly, it doesn't matter the number of calls you have, the number of emails you send out, the number of videos that you put on TikTok. You are not going to close deals because you're not playing the game correctly. And a big mistake that most founders make when it comes to sales is they don't understand the nature of what sales is. So they do it incorrectly and they just say, oh, it's a numbers game. It's not. Because if you're not playing the game by the rules, you'll never win the game.
Yeah, you got to know the parameters to be able to learn how to play inside them.
100%.
Awesome. I've never heard that analogy, the feather and the numbers game.
That's mine, man. I brought that to the world. But steal it. Feel free.
Hey, well, you're a creative, right? That's what we do. We create.
Yeah. So you had asked me how I got into this.
Yeah.
And now that I've provided some value, let me get into that. So about 10 years ago, I was a man in a very, very unusual position. I was face down on my carpet in a pool of snot and tears. And I remember it was 4:00 in the afternoon because I lived near a church and I remember hearing the 4 bells chiming, right? And the evening sun was just cresting my face. One side of my face was warm. The other side of my face was all smashed into my carpet because I was having what I can only refer to as an emotional breakdown. The reason I was having this emotional breakdown is because over the last 30 days, I had lost over $100,000. And I was about another $50,000 in debt. And it really felt like my life was over. And from the outside, it kind of was. What had happened is my marketing company, the Big Time Group, had collapsed. And the reason it had collapsed is because I had inadvertently hired a pathological liar into my company. And we were closing business left and right and sideways. And because if you're a pathological liar and have no compunction about delivering on what you promise, it's really easy to close deals. So when I realized that nothing he said was true, I fired him, went back to all of my clients, said, look, this thing that we said that we could do for $10,000, it's going to cost $40,000. And they go, oh, that's fine. That's nice. I'll take my money back, please. And you're fired. So I refunded all this money and lost everything. But here's the thing about that. I used to teach personal development courses. And one of the tenets of the courses that I taught was we create the world that we're in. Right? Anything that's going on in the world around us is a physical manifestation of an inward belief system or desire. Right? So like if you're constantly getting dumped by people, if you can't create a relationship, even if you get into a car accident, the things that happen around you are a physical manifestation of an inward belief system or a desire. And I knew that. So I had to ask myself, Kevin, the hardest question ever. Why did I want to destroy my marketing company? Right? Because if I'm in this world, I'm the common denominator. And this thing going on around me was a physical manifestation of a desire or a belief. And so my desire must have been to destroy my company because that's what had happened. And when I started looking back over the months that I was working with this guy, so many red flags that I ignored. So many red flags. So I had to ask myself, why did I want to destroy my company? And the answer was very simple. I hate marketing. I'm just really good at it. But it was never a passion, never supposed to be a career. And you who are listening, if you've ever gotten fired, dumped, any of those things, you created that for a greater purpose because it was a wrong situation. It's so easy to blame other people. But I was unwilling to blame this guy because I created this situation. I needed to get out of this business. I just didn't have the courage to walk away. So I destroyed this company because I didn't have that courage. And so I decided at that point, because I love personal development, because I love being in the changing people's life business, I was going to get back into that business, but I was going to work with the people I really wanted to work with, right? In personal development, mostly it's people who aren't really committed to growing. They're just sort of at negative numbers in life, right? They're about to get fired, about to get divorced. They come to this course. They want to figure out how to just get back to zero, right? I wanted people that wanted to live in the thousands, right? Wanted to just kick life in the ass and really make a big splash in the world. So I want to work with entrepreneurs. I was going to be a business coach. Now, lying there on the carpet, I was wondering who's going to hire a business coach that just failed at business. I don't know, but I was going to find out, right? Kevin, I was going to figure out whether or not I was actually good at this or I was a fraud. And only time was going to tell, right? If I got clients and I couldn't help them, I can't do this. Right? I'll have to go get a job somewhere. But for the next 8 months, I wiped the whiteboard of Dan Gordan clean and started rebuilding from the ground up Coach Dan Gordan. I was telling everybody what I was doing. Most people who knew me said, thank God. I'm so glad you're out of that stupid marketing thing. That's not your bag. This is what you should be doing. And I happened to mention this to a friend of mine, Mary frickin' Kane. And Mary said, she called me up and she said, hey, this is about 7 months into it. Hey, we have this new VP at Legacy, and he's looking for a speaker, somebody different. And I made it, I made this connection. It's yours to win or lose. Right. So I drive to Long Beach, where they were meeting, and I go and I meet this guy, and his name is Fred Dumar. And do you know Fred?
Yeah, dude's awesome.
Okay, so just to give you a picture, is not Fred Dumar, Colonel Fred Dumar, retired Special Forces commander. All right, so Fred is about 9 feet tall, 3 feet wide, and I walk in there and I sit down him and a bunch of people. And he says, here's what we're looking for from a speaker or this thing. And I'm sitting there listening to him, right? And this organization, the people in the audience are new in the business. They've been workers or moving into entrepreneurs. And he goes, we need this motivation and this and that. And I'm thinking he's wrong. What they need is to tell people, is to give people a guide, the landscape of going from a worker mentality to an entrepreneur mentality. That's what they need. And as he's telling me this thing, and I know he's wrong about what they need. Look, if it was a bunch of special forces people, that's exactly what they need. But that's not who was going to be in the room. And I was thinking, Kevin, just agree. Just agree, get the job, you need the money. But I realized that I had lost my other business because I was out of integrity. I wasn't going to start this one out of integrity. So I said, sir, with all due respect, that's not what you need here. Here's what you need. And I spent the next 15 minutes outlining what a speaker should talk about. And I finished up. I went to grab my jacket, my briefcase, because, clearly this guy, special forces guy is not going to hire me. By the way, I found out later that they called him Colonel Doom, short for Dumar, right? So I'm saying all this to Colonel Doom. And as I go to collect my stuff, he turns to the guy next to him. He goes, hire this guy. He's the real deal. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that I spent 15 minutes telling Colonel Doom that he was wrong and he hired me, right? But that's what top level people do, right? They want the truth. So I'm in my car driving home and I'm thinking, I can't remember a thing of what I said to him. Right. I just got hired for a gig and I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. Right. Yeah. And I just started talking out loud. I grabbed my phone and I started recording something that I wanted to share. And the whole drive home, hour and a half drive home, I recorded this thing, what turned out to be almost the exact presentation that I did. So get this, Kevin. 8 months prior, I was on the floor in my living room, on the carpet, snot and tears. Now, 8 months later, I'm on a short set of stairs. Someone is handing me a microphone and I'm about to walk out on stage being paid $10,000 for my first speaking gig after my life blew up. This is how it works, right? When you lean into the fire, when you speak the truth, when you own what's happening in your life, when you understand that your life is designed to teach you things, to move you forward, not to keep you back, that life is not a setter of traps, life is a teacher of lessons, and you're there to learn, not to suffer. I mean, you suffer a little bit, but you're there to learn. This is how the cool shit happens. But you got to stay in it. Right? Like the easiest thing in the world would have been to try to put the marketing company back together or to get a job somewhere. I did the hard thing with when I was going through those 8 months, I didn't know I was going to get this gig, right? I wasn't just waiting around till this thing showed up. It was uncertainty, and living in uncertainty is the best place to live to achieve the things that you want. Every successful person throughout history, uncertainty. Dr. King, Nelson Mandela, Richard Branson, Mother Teresa, Mr. Rogers, right? So much uncertainty to achieve the things that they wanted in life.
And that's why those are the people we look at. If they did it, what did they do?
Right.
I've never heard it called living in uncertainty, but they had Walt Disney, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, this is amazing. It's too bad your brother never saw it. Speaking to Walt, he did. Yeah. He saw this before all of us. It's like, dude, that's the cool shit, right?
It is, right? And Disney, he didn't go, oh, kids, that's where the money is, right? He did it because he loved it, right? This whole thing about follow your passion and the money, or live your passion and the money will follow. Well, kind of, but in between passion and money is a tremendous amount of heartbreak. It's a tremendous amount of struggle, uncertainty, pain, and there's no guarantee that even if you do that, the money will follow. But the only other option is to surrender passion, surrender your truth for small gains.
And that's what a W-2 is for a lot of us.
It is, yeah.
Experience the freedom of, we're doing a podcast in the middle of the day.
Yeah, we are.
You chose your location. I chose mine.
Mm-hmm.
We just got together and we started. I might go for a walk. We walk the dog.
Yeah.
People who are used to 9 to 5 in cubicles and, paying 50 cents for a coffee, they don't understand the deep battles that entrepreneurs battle. We
Right.
don't have a boss over our shoulders. We are that guy.
No. Right. And I don't do 9 to 5. I do 5 to 9. I'm up at 5 in the morning. And, sometimes the computer gets closed at 9 p.m. Right. It's just, look, Raza and I just took this amazing 2-week trip down started in Munich, took this river cruises down the Danube to Salzburg and Vienna and Budapest. It was amazing. Right.
Oh, so
But
much
this was a
history.
tough, yeah, but this was a tough year, man. I mean, I worked my ass off this year to achieve that. And that's the payoff. That's the payoff that you get by going through the tough time, by going through the suffering, by leaning into the fire. But you don't get that without the other.
So in our terms, right, in our podcast, we did an episode called Eads Bridge, and we talked about the forging moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
The construction of each bridge connects east to west, right?
Yeah.
Vision, have a dream. But the tools that they had was wood, stone, and iron.
Mm-hmm.
And those weren't strong enough to be able to cross the river, right?
Yeah.
What happened was the iron needed to turn to steel. You do that with heat. You do that with pressure. You put in additives or good, healthy habits, and you take out impurities, bad habits,
love it.
right?
Yeah.
And then it was able to span, and now it's actually still here in St. Louis, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But we talk about those forging moments. So 10 years ago, lying in your own sweat and snot, great illustration, by the way. Was that the big crux? Was that the big forging moment you have, or was there a lot of little ones after that too?
Yeah, that was probably the most dramatic one. Leading up to that, when I moved from St. Louis, Missouri to Los Angeles to pursue.
You were.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I lived in LA for 39 years. Right. I moved to LA at 40. Right. To start an entirely new life, to start a new career, to make movies. And I did. I made a few little films. Right.
Anything we know about Dan?
No. And
are we talking
you
adult industry or?
Oh God, no. Please. No. I mean, there were films I was passionate about, but they were terrible because doing new things, you're always terrible doing something new. And ultimately I decided to not stay in that business, but it was great. It was directing movies was some of the most fun times I ever had, but it was rough, right? It was rough moving here. It was rough starting my life over. There were plenty of times I wanted to move back to St. Louis, but foolish pride, like I couldn't go home with my tail in between my legs and say, oh, I didn't make it, So I stayed here but I stayed in the struggle long enough that it became easier. And that's the way it works. Most people give up at the 80% mark, right? They stay in it, they go, oh, I just can't take it anymore. And they give up right before they achieve success. But you stay in it. Like I had no idea that Mary was going to call me and go, hey, I connected you up with this guy. Like there was no indication that was ever going to happen. No reason for it to happen. But that's what happens. Like you get gifts when you stay in the struggle.
I remember one of my coaches. So I left abruptly my corporate life, right? And I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to be a real estate investor. I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah.
And dude, it got. I didn't have a deal for the first 9 months.
Wow.
But I also really didn't have a real estate coach. Nobody, it was one of those like, I'm figuring it out. I wish I would have had help, but it was one of those. And I remember reaching out to one of the guys who was helping me in the past, right? He lived in North Carolina at the time. But I was like, what should I do, George? And he's like, Kevin, if you can, stay in it. Like just kind of just stay in long enough, something's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh man, like it's not as a struggle anymore to find a house or anything like that. But it was one of those like you're using different words, but gifts stuff happens once you.
It does.
People know, hey, you're the resource. Like you're the guy now. Sometimes it's just standing up at the end of the day. That's why I like the boxer quote from Theodore Roosevelt. It's not the critic who counts, but it's the man who's actually in the arena who knows the highs and lows of great achievement, and at worst knows, in his blood and sweat and but at least he knows the high victory and the he will never be with those cold and wretched souls, or it's like
Yeah, it's a lot of practice, and a lot of my practice is finding the things that I'm afraid of and doing them. And, like I made a commitment to myself when I moved here to LA. It was kind of a funny thing. I moved here right around Christmas. And so like Christmas morning, I didn't know anybody. And so I thought, well, I'll just get my car and drive around because there probably won't be a lot of people on the road. And I think I'll go up to the Hollywood sign, right? And so I'm headed up there. I'm terrified of heights, right? So as I'm driving up this mountain and getting higher and higher, I'm getting more and more nervous. And I'm like, I don't think I want to do this. So I turn around and I'm like, I'll go to the beach, right? So I drive all the way to Santa Monica Beach, about 45 minutes. Get on my car, sitting there on the beach, and I'm looking out in the ocean, and I think, what did I just do? Right? My first month in LA, and I've already given up. Right? I can't do that. Right? I can't give up. I can't start a campaign of giving in to my fears. Got back in my car for 45 minutes, all the way back to the Hollywood sign, all the way up the mountain, right up to it. And I made a commitment then. I said, anything I'm afraid of here, I'm going to do. And in fact, if something gets presented to me and my first thought is, I don't want to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the things I don't want to do. So somebody encouraged me to join this networking group. I got no idea how to network, but I joined that. And in the networking group, they go join, these film organizations. So I joined this thing called Film Industry Network, right? I didn't want to, but I joined. And in that, they like, hey, you got to be on a committee. So I got on a committee. I didn't want to be on the committee. On one of the committees, there was this really difficult person, and I like handled them. And I didn't know the other person on the committee was the president of the group. And she loved the way that I handled this person. She goes, I want to step down. Would you be president of Film Industry Network? Right? I'm 2 months into LA, right? I don't want to do this. I have no, like, what do I know? It's something I didn't want to do. So I had to do it, right? I meet somebody who introduces me to Irvin Kershner, the director of Empire Strikes Back. He comes and I get to interview him. I'm sitting there with the guy who directed one of my favorite films, interviewing him. How the hell did that happen? Right? It happened because I leaned into it. I was taking an acting class because as a director, I wanted to get better at acting so I could direct actors. Beneath the acting class on the first floor was a boxing gym. So I would pass this every day, that I would go home. Boxing, that's something I'll never do. Oh, damn it. Right. So, right. So I'd call up the boxing guy. I'm like, hey, can I come in for a lesson? I got into boxing, right? And this instructor was this really Zen-like guy, a really cool guy. He helped me a lot, right? I learned a lot about boxing. One of the things I learned about boxing is the first person who gets angry in the ring loses, right? I know that, right? I watch Rocky movies. Like Rocky always got angry and won, but that's not how it works, right? You got to stay calm.
Rocky. I got boxing.
Right, yeah. And so what I learned in boxing is that you have to keep calm in a difficult situation and not let your fears overtake you. And Kevin, those lessons from boxing, I learned I use every day still here, right? All these like somebody encouraged me to go skydiving. That's not something that I do, but I did it, right? It's another thing I didn't want to do. And I learned a lot about myself in skydiving. Like I learned what it takes to get out that door, right? Everything, like no part of me wanted to jump out of that plane when the guy rolled the door open at 10,000 feet. But I decided that if I land with the plane, which is fine, my life would go on exactly as it had been. It was a fine life, but that's not what I was there for. I was there to experience something new. And in that moment, I said, I would rather die, I'd rather potentially die to get the thing I want than to keep going with my life as it is. And the really cool thing that happened when I jumped out of that plane is all my fears went away. Like you'd think when you leave the plane, you're really screwed, but I just, my fears evaporated and I was just loving the experience, right? These are the things that happen when you lean into the fears that you have, when you deconstruct them, when you understand them, when you develop a relationship with your fears and instead of letting your fears run you, you work with them, right? But it only happens when you do the things you don't want to do.
I am amazed how much we use different words, but a lot of our thoughts like overlay. So in our coaching, we talk about fear, and there's legit fear like snakes, spiders, things like that. Like you can speak out about. I mean, that's fine. I do think you need to face those fears, right? At whatever level. Now, I might have a reasonable fear against polar bears, but I'm not going to go box them.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
understand, like, hey, that's not what this is about.
Yeah.
But so, like, my fear was first being in front of the stage, like being public speaking, right? Getting in front, and then it was fear of the camera, which I'm doing it, right? First it was the sound of my voice I didn't like, and then I started a morning show where it was just all audio. And it was okay. Then it was the video, so I did some speaking, and then I did. Now this is video, and I'm recognizing like it's curious you bring this up, Dan. Like social media, I'm there, but I'm not there. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
so, like here, it's not like there's a bunch of people, but I'm looking at you. I'm not looking at the camera. It's just not a one-off. But social media, there's so much there that creators and content makers and salesmen, right? Not to use your
Yeah.
word there, they're living in there to sell or pitch or do whatever they want. But I think
Mm-hmm.
there really needs to be an authentic voice teaching and training just everybody if they want to learn this stuff. And
Yeah.
knowing that I don't like to be on this, but it's also like there is fear, and it's like my next victory is on the other side of that.
Right. Yes,
Just like
absolutely.
on this show here, which again, there's things that creep me out. But because of that, I mean, we're in the top 5% worldwide of podcasts. Like, that's
Mm.
pretty cool. We've saved lives. We've helped people. Like, okay, that wouldn't have happened if we didn't get over this first hump. If people like
Mm-hmm.
Harry and Jake from Doorward and, others weren't there to help push that over the hump, you know, people would be dead. Lives would be broken. That's
It's
kind of how I
beautiful,
look
right?
at it. So, like what you're saying, going up to the Hollywood sign, like there's that sense of victory doing those things.
Yeah. Right. And just that little thing, I didn't, no indication that doing that, making that commitment to myself, that was going to turn into anything. And that's the hard thing, right? Is to not know, right? When I was on the floor in snot and tears, I didn't know that things were going to turn around. No indication things were going to turn around. And it's how I feel every time when I'm up against a struggle. I don't know when that struggle is going to relieve itself, right? When I'm going to feel better. I just know I feel bad right now, and my natural instinct is to do the thing that'll make me feel better immediately. But that's not where the action is, right? It's to stay in the struggle, to feel uncomfortable, and then the resolution sort of happens on its own.
It's curious you said just your words there, because the conversation before I had with you here was talking about how much we lie to ourselves. Like
Mm-hmm.
we are our own greatest deceiver and liar. Like, and it's like, why do we accept that? If someone else did this to us, we wouldn't,
Yeah.
we wouldn't keep that person around. But when it's like, hey, I'm going to go to the gym. No, you're not. Yeah, I'm not going to do it. Why do we let that liar stick with us and not kick him out like the other guy? It's
Yeah. Well,
interesting that lying to
it's you have to understand, Kevin, there is no part of us that is, I won't say inefficient, but is flawed, right? Like, so you think of your critical inner voice and think, oh, if I could just get rid of the critical inner voice, right? Things would be so much better. Why is a critical inner voice there, right? The critical inner voice is there to help you, right? So that critical voice is part of our ego structure. Now, our ego structure, the human ego structure, is the thing that keeps us alive. What the ego structure says is, as long as you have food in your belly, a roof over your head, and love in your heart, don't do anything new, right? Just keep doing this thing. And this is established millions of years ago when we were cave dwellers, right? Because look, if you found a safe route from the cave to the watering hole, the ego is like, don't take the scenic route, do this, because there could be saber-toothed tigers or warring tribe or a cliff that you could fall, right? That's how human beings have survived. But human beings, the ego doesn't know the difference between making a cold call and falling off the edge of a cliff. Right? It sees it as the same thing. It's a life or death. It's a zero-sum game thing, right? On or off. So everything that feels dangerous, it feels like life or death. It feels like you could die. So making that cold call, asking out the crush, boxing, whatever it is, the scary thing that you do, your ego is saying, don't do it. Stick with what's safe. This is how human beings have survived. But that's why you got to use this big frontal lobe part to overwhelm your ego, the ego structure, to lean into the things that you're afraid of, because that's where the action is.
Have you noticed with the people you coach? In my coaching, I figure there's a handful of people, right? Some people are so smart and they need and absorb all this knowledge, but never or very rarely take action, right?
Yeah.
But they're incredibly smart. They know more about it probably than we do, and we're actively doing it, right? But they're not action. And then we have the doers, right? That
Mm-hmm.
Ready, aim, shoot, like that idea of
Yeah.
like shoot, ready, aim, and you're like, holy shit, you already did what? I had a buddy. He's like, oh, Kevin, I want to learn how foreclosures work. So he went to the sale, and he came home with a house. He's like, I don't know. I'm like, you don't have time. You don't have. What did you do? Like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know. And it's like, oh my gosh! But those are also like, you got to commend them because they get it done.
Yeah.
And then they get the coaching after they did something that wasn't necessarily in mind, but it was like, okay, like with those, like what kind of personality types have you enjoyed working with most?
It's what you said, the doers. We are bought into a belief early on. We're sold a belief, right? That knowledge is success, and it's not. Most people making $1 million plus were C students, right? So just, getting.
Yes, I knew my time was coming.
Right? Me too. I'm a dreamer, right? I'm not good at math, right? I don't want to diagram a sentence, right? I want to write a story. And so being the book smart stuff is stuff that you fall back on. It helps you with your doing mentality, right? But it is, it's like you said, this guy just went and bought something. When I did that presentation for Legacy, I remember I was talking with this one woman and she goes, this is so easy. Like all you got to do is do what they say. And this was not, clearly this was not a, how do I say this? She wasn't a member of Mensa, but all she did was just follow through on what they said to do. She didn't overthink it. She didn't let her fears get in the way. She was like, all right, I'll just do this, right? Nothing to lose. And being smart does not give you what you need. Being smart gives you a cushion of knowledge to help you, but only if you take action, right? Like early in my boxing experience, right? Like my coaches had me get out there and just box, right? Okay, we're just going to spar. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Goes, that's fine. Just get out there and start, just throwing punches. Let you see where you are, right? I could have studied books on boxing. I could have read theory. And you know what? If I had done all of that, my first experience of boxing would have been the same if I hadn't done any of that, because you have to get out there. You have to have the human experience. Once you have some human experience, knowledge is power. Knowledge helps fill in the gaps of what to do next. But don't believe that you have to know something first before doing it. It's really funny. When I decided to be a coach, I'm like, well, maybe I should go to a coaching school. And somehow I had forgotten that I had been teaching personal development courses for a decade and knew what I was doing. But I went to this school. And I'll jump to the end and tell you the middle. I got kicked out of coaching school.
It's like a Quentin Tarantino story. All right, here's the end. Now let me back it up.
Right. So what happened is we were sitting in there and they were telling us all the things that they were going to teach us. But in no way did they talk about how we were going to build our coaching business. Oh, you're going to learn how to do this and do this and do this. So I was a good guy for the first day. It was this weekend introductory course thing. Second day, I was like, yeah, I have a question. How are we going to make money at this? Like, when are we going to learn how to build our coaching business? And they go, well, here's what you do. Once you're a coach, once you graduate from our dumb program and have this piece of paper that we sell you, once you do that, you give away your coaching for free. And then if they like your coaching, then they'll start paying you. And I said, what kind of business model is that? Like, name any other successful business. Like, do you go to a restaurant and they go, here, you can eat free. And if you like our food, then you can pay us. Like, like a lawyer, here, I'll do this work for you for free. And if you like, and I said, right. And so, we're having this conversation. We broke for lunch, and they said, "Look, Dan, I don't think this school is for you." And I said, "Are you asking me not to return from lunch?" And they go, "Yeah." And
That's it.
I said, "You're doing these people a huge disservice, right? Because what you're telling them is that just learning how to coach will make them successful, and it won't. That's not how it works. Like the best coach in the world is like the night manager at Wendy's, and the worst one has a house on the Pacific Coast Highway, right? And the difference between the two is one knows how to sell and the other doesn't, right? One knows how to enroll people in their coaching, in their service or their product, and the other doesn't. Right? That's why learning how to sell is so important. Right? It not only allows you to make money at the thing that you love and help other people, but it also takes you through a myriad of difficulties and challenges and fears and belief systems that need to be cracked and destroyed in order for you to be successful at anything that you want to be successful at.
So to go to a previous thing we talked about, because all these things go back to this, right?
Yeah.
You talked about manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
And creating your outside physical that represent basically your inside mental, right? Mindset
Yeah.
is everything. For people who don't know what manifestation is, can you explain that? Because it's not like Star Wars where you use the Force and stuff happens.
Right. Yeah.
So, but break it down if people haven't heard this a little bit, because not everybody has an expert like you to explain it.
So the manifestation, or some people call it the law of attraction. It's not. The law of attraction states that, just believe in it and then it happens. Well, you believe in it, you think about it, you focus on it, but then you do all the work, right? You have a picture in your mind of what you want. Like I had a picture in my mind of stepping out on stage and being in front of hundreds of people, right? I kept that in my mind when I decided to be a coach, and that's what happened, right? But the 8 months in between having that vision and that thing happening was a lot of stress, struggle, difficulty, right? So the manifestation, the belief, the idea is great, but you have to also understand that you're going to suffer a lot. You're going to have tremendous uncertainty. Right? You're going to want to give up. People are going to support you in wanting to give up. Like they'll say things like, well, you gave it your best shot. And probably those people have jobs. And they're saying that to you because they want you to give up too, because if you're successful, it's going to tell them that they could have been successful too, right? People who give up are going to encourage you to give up. The vision of what you get is never going to be exactly what you picture. It will be something like it. And then you go, oh, hey, that was that thing that I thought about that I forgot about. The important part of manifestation is that it helps you stay focused on the thing that you want, so you're headed in the direction of that thing. Think about it this way. In The Wizard of Oz, right? Dorothy, the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, the Cowardly Lion, they were all headed towards what? The Emerald City. And they thought the Emerald City was going to give, or the wizard was going to give them the things that they wanted. But then what they realized is they already had it within them. He didn't give it to them, right? They were headed in this direction and they got the thing that they wanted, but it wasn't in the way that they thought that they were going to get it. That's what manifestation is. That's what that vision is. You're headed towards the Emerald City. You're headed towards the thing that you want, towards this thing that you see, but you're going to get it, but not in the way that you believe, or not in the way that you're thinking.
So if somebody's never done a manifestation exercise or something of this sort, how would you recommend that they get started?
Okay. Start with the picture of what you want. Okay, let's say I'll just use mine. Being on stage in front of hundreds of people, giving a presentation, being paid well for it. Okay, that was the overarching picture. Now I got granular with it, right? I heard myself walking up the steps up to that, up to the stage. I felt the microphone in my hand as somebody handed me the microphone. Right. I heard the ambient sound of the room. Right. I heard somebody giving me an introduction. Right. I felt the stage. When you walk out on those stages, it has that give to it. Right. I felt that give of the stage. Right. All these things, you want to bring in as much a sensory information into the manifestation as possible. Because that helps ground you in this thing that you want.
That's awesome. Actually, because Mary helped me learn how to do some of the visualizing stuff.
Mm.
And I remember, I think it was maybe 2 years ago, I was like, man, it'd be really cool if I bought a slab in Overland as a rental. Who has that idea? Like, oh, yeah, why not? And then sure enough, one popped up. I looked at it. They're like, oh, Kevin, our numbers are too far apart. I said, okay. I don't know why I thought slab and Overland or whatever. Sure enough, they called 2-3 weeks later. They're like, we'll take it. Okay, like fantastic.
Kevin, hold on. That worked. I got to point this out. That worked because you were unattached to it, right? You weren't like, oh, this is what I want to manifest. I got to go for it. I got to do it, right? You were unattached. Like, all right, maybe this isn't the one, right? It was sort of like when Colonel Doom, was saying what he wanted, I was like, no, this is really what you need. I was unattached to whether or not I got that gig. What I was attached to was helping the people in the room. And if helping the people in the room was telling Fred, this is the kind of speaker that you need, even if it's not me, that's where my service was. Right? So I'm going to bring that into part of the manifestation. How are you serving? What is this doing for other people? What are you bringing to the world that is unique and special and helpful?
I don't know where you stand on this stuff, but I have a hard time doing something if I'm the only victor out of it. Like, hey,
completely.
So I could have this brand new blank, 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 right?
Right, yeah.
No, I'm not saying I don't reward myself for something, but if I'm the only one who wins, why am I doing it? Am I helping somebody else? Am I helping anybody? If I'm purely self-serving, then why would manifestation work? Like,
exactly. Gandhi said, if everybody knew the joy of service, they would never stop. And it's true. Like I was just talking with a client this morning, and I'm helping her a lot with a bunch of different things. But the thing that's most important is that I get her paid back for what she's paying me. So we were talking about some prospects that she was talking to. I'm like, okay, let's focus on this because this is how I get you paid back. And I know she's really good at what she does. So her enrolling people, she's a financial analyst, her enrolling people saves them from the half-wits and con artist that could be enrolling them, right? So I'm serving them by making sure she knows what to say to enroll them so they get enrolled by her and well served by her. Right? How do we say it? The pond ripples, right? What you're doing, what you're putting out there, who you're helping, how you are helping them. Right? I know that there are people who are in that audience at Legacy that are still successful because of me, right? Because of what I shared with them, right? They're still remembering the things I said. And I know this because I have clients who like I've run into and they're like, man, you're still in my head, right? When I'm talking with a prospect, I'm still thinking, oh yeah, Coach Dan said this, right? I'm having those pond ripples of service.
What a fun word. Ponderable. Is that a real word? You just
pond ripples, right? So you throw a big rock in a pond and it makes those ripples, right? Those ripples ripple out.
So I call that wave theory, but I do like ponderables because
ponderables.
I'm like, either one of these work because you're still thinking about it.
Take it, Kevin. Take it. Ponderables. I love it.
T-shirts come out. That's
awesome. Ponderables.com. Jump on it.
Hey. Done. Some Gordon Dairaghi, co-marketing. We could do that. All right. Let me give you 2 more questions, right?
Okay.
So is there some advice that you wish you would have received maybe like 10 years ago or something like that, or something that was just, or something that you would have told your past self going through that, hey, it's okay, buddy, something where you could have been like, I'll save you a little bit, but it's going to work out. Like, what kind of advice would you have given yourself?
Make a lot more mistakes, Dan. Just make so many more mistakes. Like, do all the things that you don't think you can do. I had so many opportunities. I'm thinking of one right now. Somebody wanted to partner with me to do a corporate workshop. And I'm like, I just don't have the credibility. Like I need more, like, no, I could have done it. Absolutely could have done it. And I got scared, right? I had to learn to be scared. So that's one. The other thing is forgiveness, self-forgiveness. Forgive yourself, right? Like when I think of that thing and like, oh, I wish I'd done that. Yeah, I wasn't there. Didn't have it. There's a lot of things I've done I wish I hadn't done or wish I had done, but I forgive myself for it because I was doing literally the best I could.
Which one do you think is harder, to forgive yourself for something that you did or something that you didn't do?
I think it's the same thing. It really is. Either way, you let yourself down. But here's the thing about that. When I think about that, when I think, God, why didn't I just do it? I'm thinking today's mind, right? That part of our brain, our visualization part doesn't know time, right? It only sees things and go, oh, it's happening now. That's why like horror movies work. Like you go to a horror movie and the killer jumps out with a chainsaw. You go, right? You're afraid because that part of your mind doesn't know it's not real, right? It's just feeling, right? So I think about, oh, I wish I had done that, right? So that I'm thinking with today's mind in yesterday's experience. And the two don't match up. It's like kicking yourself in the ass because in third grade you didn't understand quantum physics. Like you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to understand it then. We learn as we go, right? We can use our history as lessons. So in the future, I can go, oh, somebody just gave me this great opportunity. I don't think I can do it. Well, then I'm going to do it. There are so many speaking gigs that I applied to that I had no idea if I could really talk on that subject. But I figure, all right, I'll just say I can and figure it out. That's what happened with Legacy. That's what's happened with every great thing I've ever done. Started with, I don't know if I can do this, but I'm going to figure it out or give them their money back. And so far, figuring out is one.
It's a great feeling it's great when you're nervous about one of those events. When you still get the butterflies, or
Yeah.
that means it's still in you. Like when you go up and you're like, whatever. You're losing something, but when you still have the butterflies of the room, it feels good.
Yeah. We talked about this a little bit before we got on, but I was in a comedy troupe 100 million years ago. And I also did stand-up. And what I learned in stand-up is that when I was nervous, when I went up to do my set and I still hadn't quite learned it and I was nervous, that's where I got the laughs. When I had it down, that's where the laughs stopped. It was a funny thing. Because when I knew the material so well, there wasn't an edge to it. And having a little bit of an edge really helps. Right? It keeps you sharp. And if you feel like I got this, you're not sharp.
That's neat. All right. So here we go. When you go through, we have those big forging moments, right? Where
Yeah.
lying on the carpet,
Yeah. It's not tears. Sure.
And then there's like little ones where you have those little self doubts, or you use the word fraud, or what's the word that Mike Kitko, imposter syndrome? Like we have all these little micro moments, right? But when you're going through any of those, Dan, like, is there something you go back and you hold on to, and you're like, hey, this quote, this story, this manifestation, this song, this lyric, this poem, this code, whatever it is there something that you're like, hey, this is my rock, and then you start self-talking positively on top of that? Do you have something like that?
Yeah, I think of all of the voices in my head, like all the different things I tell myself. I see this oval table, and all these people at the table have a different voice, but I'm the CEO, right? And if I don't act as the CEO, maybe the scared voice is going to take the meeting. Or maybe the self-doubt voice is going to take the meeting. Maybe the overwhelming sense of I can do it will take the meeting, which doesn't need that right now. And so I have to. What I hold on to is I see that oval table, all those pictures, and remember if the voices are too loud and if I'm not feeling good, it means I'm not standing as a CEO. It means that I'm not going, okay, hold it, guys, hold it, right? fear, I get it. You're concerned about this, overwhelming sense of positivity. Yeah, great. But we're not quite ready to lift that much weight. We're going to give ourselves a hernia, right? We got to, I have to manage this, like a conductor of an orchestra. Like nobody can be too loud. I got to bring it up, bring it down. So that's kind of what I hold on to when I'm struggling. I got to manage all of this.
What a great visualization there. Do you have vivid dreams?
That one actually came when I was on a psilocybin trip.
On a what?
A psilocybin trip. Mushrooms. So I did
Sorry, I need simple words.
Okay. I did talk about something that scared the hell out of me. I did a facilitated psilocybin journey. And because I felt like I had gone as far as I could go with like just personal development and reading and therapy and all that. I really wanted to kick down the door of consciousness. And I don't recommend it for everybody. It was the trip was a trip. But one of the things I got out of it was that experience where I physically saw this thing. And if you do this, if you're thinking about doing this, absolutely do it with somebody that you trust, that is a practitioner of it. Right? This is not something I do recreationally by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not a drug taker, but I did this to have a powerful experience, and that was vivid. That was really powerful. That's scary awesome. As fuck. Yeah, it was crazy.
Spirit journeys. I know some people they do this quarterly or a couple times a year. Like, hey, this is just like we'd plan out our goals or our rocks for okay, let's do our, I can't even say mushrooms, and then kind of come up and what's in here that needs to come out.
Yeah. I know that people do. I've never done ayahuasca, anything like that. I'm not really drawn to something like that, but I wanted to peer behind the veil. And it was cool. I'd say the coolest part of that experience was I had a part of that where I completely let go of mind, body, space, and time. And I just sort of existed as pure consciousness. It was beyond explanation. I can't give you an explanation of that, but I had no body, anything. I was just this little consciousness out in the universe. It was trippy.
And it's kind of hard to come back from that, I'm sure.
It was funny because I told my guy, like, okay, you have to watch over my body because I'm going to leave. You got to make sure that I have a body to come back to. I mean, it sounds crazy now, but that's how I felt.
Were they just like, yeah, we got it?
Yeah. He was like, I totally understand. Like, I'm here. I'll make sure that it keeps breathing so you have something to come back to,
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. Dan, it's been great talking with you.
I don't usually cover that, but here we are.
I mean, here we are. I told you it's all fair game.
Yeah.
It is like I've known you for years, even though it's just like, hey, we just met a couple minutes ago.
This has been great, Kevin. It's really been great.
What's exciting is you don't know where these conversations go or who needs to hear this. It's not easy to say, hey, I'm laying in my, puddle of my own fluid, right? But because of that, you had success. It's hard to tell people dude, I was broken. In my storyline, I was broken. I was lost. But it was also those different moments that actually start building your character. And if you don't have it, there's something missing. It's like you go through the journey, not to just go through the journey, but that's why we're coaches. That's why we're leaders, is to guide other people through. Like, hey, I made the road. Use the damn road.
By the way, if anybody wants to connect with me, just do a Google search for Coach Dan Gordan. Go on to LinkedIn, do a search for Coach Dan Gordan. You can find my podcast. My podcast is called For Badass Entrepreneurs Only. You can check that out. And also, this is an offer that I make to everybody on every podcast, and very few people take me up on it. I'm happy to have a conversation with you. Yes, you who are listening right now. There's two things I can guarantee you about that conversation. One, you're going to walk away with at least $10,000 worth of advice. And two, you will not be a client, because I will not ask you to be a client. This call is about you. And to book a call with me, just text the word HELP, HELP, to this number, 213-409-8366. 213-409-8366, and text the word HELP, HELP, to 213-409-8366. 409-8366. And you'll get a little link to book a call with me. Let's talk. Let me help you become the greatest version of yourself.
Fantastic, Dan. It's like you've done this before.
I have.
Actually, as you're doing that, I looked up your podcast. I'm like, that's awesome. So,
hey, you know what? One more thing. I've written a few books. One book is called How to Improve Your Sales in 60% in 60 Days. I was sharing that at an event I was at, and someone says, selling's bullshit. I'm like, oh, that's going to be the title of my next book. And so I have a book called Selling is Bullshit. It's specifically written for people who do not consider themselves salespeople. And to get that book, just text the letters BS as in bullshit, BS to that same number, 213-409-8366. You can buy the book on Amazon, but I'd rather give it to you for free. So you can download it, 213-409-8366, and text BS and get my book, Selling is Bullshit, for free.
Fantastic, Dan. Way to add value. Good job.
That's why we're here, man.
Great to have you on again. It's like I've known you for years. Glad to finally have a bigger chat about everything. So,
Kevin, this has been delightful. And thank you for all the good work that you're doing. I genuinely appreciate it. Genuinely appreciate the help that you're giving, the pond ripples or the ponderers the ponderables that you're creating, and the good work. God bless you, man. Thank you so much.
You too. Thanks, Dan. Again, I told you you're going to like this episode. But I mean, talk about it. Like jumping into, hey, here's value first. I know you asked a question, but I'm going to answer that with something else. Reluctant sales. I mean, talk about like a cool little niche there. I think of my sister who's like, oh, I'm not in sales. You know, she works for a nonprofit, right? That helps people. I'm like, you're in sales. But so many of us, regardless of what our position is, are in sales, right? We want people to think or act in a way that is advantageous, right? And that's really what I think sales is to many of it. But what a neat idea of looking at sales as managing disappointment. Kind of a neat way of doing it. Love about 10% of what you do, 90%, is on the other stuff. But the fact that you can love 10% is fantastic. Correcting the idea that sales is a numbers game. The emotional breakdown he had, the going up to the Hollywood sign, down to the beach, back to the Hollywood sign, facing his fears. I mean, this is gold stuff. Guys, just the ponderables. And here I thought he was saying ponderables, like thinking about it, and it was pond ripples, which really is neat because I used to do a whole segment about creating those waves and all the people we affect with those ripples. And here he is actually using those words back. It's really just awesome. It's like we're saying the same stuff. Manifestation, man, think of that key thing. You know, so we talk about building your own affirmations, right? The I am statements. Well, what is that? That is actually part of the manifestation process, becoming your future self. So, man, just a great time. Really do appreciate you, Dan, for jumping on. If you haven't yet, jump in, use that code, get the book, get the stuff he's giving out. I mean, this is gold. If you read through any of the testimonials he has out there, like this guy is just a player. Thank you, Dan, for jumping on, and really hope to be a blessing to you soon. Thank you. Thank you all for jumping on.